there's a liberation of energy. And that liberation of energy is available energy for them to design a new destiny. It's that energy being released from their past into the field. When your will starts to begin to become uncompromising, or your passion starts to get more focused, or you tend to make a decision in that moment that you are going to do this. There's a shift in energy when we do that. And after all these years, I now know that nobody changes until they change their energy, period. And when you change your energy, you change your life. And in getting people to stay there then, I think is what I'm truly passionate about. To be able to regulate internal states independent of the conditions in their external environment means they're beginning to master their environment. So they're less reactionary to their boss or to their ex. They're more present with their family and their friends. They tend to have happiness and joy for no apparent reason. Their body is releasing old neurological and emotional patterns. They tend to be freer in their expression. They think better. They see futures and dream of futures and create. And they tend to lead with their hearts more in their lives. And I think that's a new model of human evolution. I don't care that you stop doing the work. What I care about is when you start doing it again. And being defined by a vision of the future, the alternative is to be defined by the memories of the past. You know, to fall in love with the future is so much more important than keep falling in love with your past. You know, to romance a future is so much better than romancing the past. So I think that when people really start seeing the benefits of their efforts, now it becomes instrumental. It's no longer that, you know, there's a dread that they have to get up and create. They notice the magic in their life and they want to keep it going. So they're excited about doing it, they're excited about changing, and they show up to certain degrees unpredictable in their life, and people notice that. They're not reacting as much, they're not complaining as much, they're not as frustrated, they're not in a program, and when you're not in the program, you're in the unknown, right? And so people start to notice, hey, you know, something different about you, and that means then that they're more they belong to their future now more than they belong to their past. Because if they're in a program or a habit or they're emotional, they are in their past. Let's see if they can begin to settle down into the present moment and begin to change that stress response, change that emotional state right in that moment when your legs are shaking or your heart is racing. And if you are able to do that and settle down and move through that experience, a few things would happen. Number one is that you would probably realize that this is where you normally stop in your life, and you've just moved further. When you return back to your life, similar situations come up, you may actually settle your brain and body down with your eyes open and be able to make that change and not go into a program, because I believe that we learn the most about ourselves when we're uncomfortable. And we learn the most about others when we're uncomfortable. So why not put them in uncomfortable situations and see if they're able to do that? Number three, if you're standing on a post at 40 feet and the little frame that you're standing on is wobbling and your heart is racing and you're able to settle yourself down and be able to execute and move through it, you may perceive the things in your life as less threatening. You may relatively say, well, this was nothing after what I've just done. Number four, energy and emotions, as you know, tend to be stored equally or more in the body as in they are in the brain. So as a person moves through their own fear, their own level of endurance, they think they can't go any further. They think it's about physical strength or think about physical endurance. It's not. It's about will. It's the mind that actually takes us there. And you train those people, then it makes sense that if they're able to do that to a certain degree, that could possibly become a new state, because as they get rid of that or as they overcome that emotion, there's a liberation of energy. And that liberation of energy is available energy for them to design a new destiny. It's that energy being released from their past into the field. Now, that energy is chaotic energy, no doubt about it. But if they're still doing the work and we're still working with that energy, well, when it comes time to heal, or when it comes time to heal another person, or when it comes time to invest your attention and energy into the future, you have the available energy to do it. So it's almost been like an accelerator, an evolution of what we've been doing. There's a few paths that we go. I mean, one path is you keep shaving down the personality, you keep shaving down the ego, you keep working with the programs, and we all do that. You know, that's the work that we do. And we tend to do it, and it takes time. And because it takes time, it means we're a little bit more separate from that unified field that we can access. I think the hormones of stress endorse our senses, we become materialists, and then we experience separation. You know, separation is local space and time. But when people start to connect to the field and they give up their memory of their body, their personality, the things they own, the place they're sitting, the place they live, and time itself, they become pure consciousness. Now, time is created by a separation between 2 points of consciousness. There's me here, and then there's the door over there. And this is one point of consciousness, that's another point of consciousness. So I'm going to navigate in the three-dimensional world as a body local in space and time. I got to drag my body through space. I have to collapse space, and I experience time. So people have their dreams, their goals, they have the things they want, and it takes time. We come back to the three-dimensional world. The environment is the same, our home is the same, you know, everything's the same, and we have neurological networks in our brain that correlate with everything known in our life, all the people, the things, the places. So then the environment tends to regulate how we think and feel. So there's a little bit of a battle. It takes time for us to shave down some of those things, and we see it. We see people with all kinds of health conditions. It takes them a few years. They're uncompromising. They arrive, but it's taken them time. Well, what we're seeing now is that when we start seeing these amplitudes of energy, and we can actually many times predict when it's going to happen, that there is, as a consciousness, they're no longer their body living in an environment and living in time. They've disconnected from all of those elements. And if you're not your body, and if you're not your personality, and you're not the memory of your identity, and your cell phone, and your possessions, and where you live, and time, your appointments, the only thing you're left as is consciousness and awareness. And so when people begin to connect to that field, and they begin to pay attention to it, to experience it, to stay present with it, to become more aware of it, and they have the laxity of time that we're in a retreat and there's just nothing else to do, and they really, really get sincere and put their attention on it, they start to connect to that field. And as they connect to that field, it is an intelligence, it is a consciousness, it is an awareness, it's an energy. And as they begin to experience greater and greater degrees of oneness and wholeness, because that's its signature, they experience more wholeness, they experience less separation. So then as you move closer to it, you have the free-willed consciousness called the human being, a soul on the journey, and you have the consciousness of the field. And as you begin to close the gap between 2 points of consciousness, you close time as well. So we start to see the healings happening in a shorter amount of time because they're more connected to that field. Now, that's important because it's not matter at this point that's changing matter. It's energy that's changing matter. It's the field. And as people begin to connect to that field, it begins to organize or reorganize matter in a biological upgrade in a very short amount of time because there's less separation between the consciousness as the individual and the consciousness of the field, or the energy of the field. And people are just getting better at it. So when they strike it right, there's a new stream of consciousness that's being processed through the brain, and you can't have consciousness without energy. So there's a greater level of awareness, gamma brainwave patterns, there's super consciousness, super awareness. So now they're super aware. They're more aware than they've ever been. The energy that they're experiencing, they're feeling in their body, but it doesn't feel like guilt, it doesn't feel like shame, it doesn't feel like resentment, it doesn't feel like competition or aggression or frustration. It feels like this incredible amount of orderliness that we could only describe as love. But not love like love for your puppy or love for your partner. That's chemical. This is electric. And people tend to feel it in every cell of their body because the nervous system is connected to everything. So they get this incredible sensation, and I would call it the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling I've ever had. It's almost like you know that that's you, but you just forgot that that was you. And so people then, when they have that taste of that, they're less likely to be interested in many other things after that because no drug, no drink, no meal, no sexual experience, no car, no home, no skydiving, whatever it is. Nothing's going to compare to that feeling that they experience, and they just want more of that. And then you think, well, there just can't be any more love than that until the next experience. And I always think there's just more love. And as we evolve, those people, they don't have to try in their lives to forgive. It's not like they have to try any longer. They just have this feeling. And this feeling feels so good that they would never trade this feeling to judge another human being, because they would lose the feeling, and they figure it out. And I want that to be the new normal, because that's the beginning of unconditional love, when it's no longer an effort to try to do it, it's just something that occurs as a side effect. And imagine, this has happened to me, and it's happened to many students that we've interviewed. An inward experience, not an outer experience. An inner experience that has that amplitude of energy, that arouses the brain that much, that you have this feeling in your chest. They say, many of the people say, oh, I think I'm having a heart orgasm. I don't even know how to describe this. It's like my heart is blooming. And I'm not doing anything. And they have an inner experience, and the emotion from the inner experience is lasting for weeks. Now, that is a new level of understanding, because they're more prone to see possibilities that they've never seen before, because they're no longer emotionally looking at their future or their life through the lens of the past.